Here we go.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back in with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Gooner Talk podcast. I'm joined by two wonderful people and a pretending Italian this evening. First of all, Ola joining us with a very bright Christmas tree in the background. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for bringing me back on. It's been a minute. Been very busy, but you know how it is. We do it all for Arsenal, man. You get me?
Yeah, we do. Of course we do. Raph, good to have you back as per.
Yeah, likewise. Good to be back. Enjoying it. Feeling a bit more infused.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes.
Yeah,
just a little bit. Just now things seem to be moving in the right direction a little bit more. And joining us live from Rome, because he just loves showing off, it's Mike. How you doing, fella? We can't hear you. It was perfect. We can't hear you at all now. Oh dear. I don't know why we can't hear him. But we were just joking around before we went live saying that Mike in Rome had better connection than Kenny Ken in his own living room does. But it's gone completely awry now and we can't hear a word he's saying. So it's gone completely tits up. Oh well. We'll move forward and we'll push through. Maybe if he jumps out and jumps back in, we might get his sound back again. Raph, I'm gonna start with you, mate. Obviously, we've got a new head coach, which is quite big. We haven't had a podcast since Arteta was appointed, and there is a game to talk about. Arteta wasn't in charge yesterday, so we're going to talk about Arteta in the second half of the show, and we're going to focus on Everton first. I mean, it wasn't a great game. I think we can all agree on that. It was probably the worst game we've watched all season. But we kept a clean sheet, and defensively, I thought there was improvements. What was your overall evaluation of the game?
Yeah, it was probably the worst game I've seen in a long time. I mean, Everton were shocking, like passing and stuff. It was like they were terrible. But I think that there was some positive signs. I mean, the lineup shocked me completely. There's a lot of youngsters. Obviously, Emil Smith-Rowe made his Prem debut. Obviously, we knew that we were going to have Saka at left back, Maitland-Niles at right back. Nelson was a bit of a surprise as well. So if I'm honest, I wasn't that optimistic about the result, just looking at the way Everton have played in the last couple of games. But I mean, I think the defence, considering it was a makeshift defence, was very solid. I thought Saka was brilliant. Ainsley Maitland-Niles was very good as well. I thought Louise was surprisingly, it was probably his steadiest performance. In Chambers, obviously, was standout man of the match performance. I thought Xhaka played very well as well, and Torreira. I felt that there was a bit more of a defensive stability that I haven't seen in a while. I don't know if because of that we suffered a little bit in an attacking sense, because I felt that we lacked a bit of fluidity going forward. Our passing was a little bit it's a little bit hit and miss, if I'm honest. But I felt like we grew into the game and we did have more chances. Like obviously the Aubameyang chance was a big one. He should have scored. And there was a couple of little openings where I thought that we grew into the game a lot. But overall, happy for the clean sheet. Something I haven't seen in a long time away. And but I just felt that there was a lot to be desired going forward. So hopefully we can kind of find that balance as we progress. It was a good thing for Freddie as well.
Yeah. I think the balance is going to take time to sort of realise and sort of getting players playing in their most sort of comfortable positions as well. We've looked at the team in depth and analysing each player. It seems we've got a mix and match of players that suit different systems, and hopefully our new coach will be able to find that balance of where they need to go. Ola, this was a game in which I really didn't expect us to take too much from. I saw our lineup at the start of the game, so much youth, as Raph already described, with Emil Smith-Rowe in there. I mean, we had Saka at left back, who, let alone the guy being a youngster and hardly bred into the team yet, and he's already playing out of position in a role which he was going to get. Oh, we've lost Ola. He didn't like that question. Raph, you're going to have to take over. He thought, no, I ain't answering that question. It's not going to.
One thing I would say is, obviously, I don't think he loves playing the position, but Saka did play. He has played left back in the youth ranks, so he's not completely alien to it. But obviously, playing it at senior level is completely different. And I think, as you see with Emil Smith Rowe as well, I don't know if you've watched some of the under-23 games, but he bosses a lot at that level. Like a lot of games, there's a lot of stellar performances, and I felt, especially in the first half, he did struggle a little bit. And I just think that we just need to find some sort of balance in with some of the youngsters, and ideally you'd want to bred them in their like natural positions. But I think Saka in particular, when he played at left back, I was really enthused about it. I felt like Maitland-Niles, I don't know if it's the Freddie influence, but he seems a little bit more comfortable. I don't know if Freddie's put his arm around him and said, "Look, make this your own." Or I know that you don't love it, but make that position your own. Because I don't know, since he's come back, he just seems a little bit more comfortable. I don't know if you got that feeling as well, but he just seems a little bit more comfortable, a little bit less mistakes. Seems like he's kind of found a little bit of a balance between going forward and defending a little bit more. And I don't know if it, and also obviously, I think with some of the other guys, I think in general, we've just had a little bit more, there was just a little bit more of a better feeling around some of the younger players. And I think Freddie may have been key to that, being that he has such a good history with them and stuff. So I felt overall, although there was a couple of square pegs and round holes, it was all right in the end.
Yeah, it did work out. Ola, are you back with us now, mate? I thought you just didn't like the question.
No.
You were like, nah.
Technical difficulties, brother. Technical difficulties, but we're back. We're back.
Danny in the chat going, we had 4 at the start, then we had 3, and then after you left, we only had 2. They're going down. Soon it's going to be a raw reaction, so it's just me talking to the camera.
Shout out Mr. GFP. I fuck with Danny still.
But, I mean, Ola, in terms of specifically looking at the defence, we had 2 fullbacks in there who were not playing in their natural positions, even though Maitland-Niles has played there quite a fair amount. Saka, when the last time he was chucked into that role, I believe it was in the last, it was Standard Liège, wasn't it, where he had to play left back in that last Europa League game. And he said to Freddie, and Freddie said himself that he wasn't happy about playing there. I thought, and Raph agreed, that he sort of acquitted himself very, very well. Are you more confident now, knowing that we've not got Tierney for 3 months, Kolasinac for another month, that actually Saka could do a job in that role?
Confident is probably the wrong word to use. He's doing a job there. He's filling a space, and being a professional footballer, there's certain periods where you'll have to play positions that you don't really want to play, but you do it for the sake of the team. And for me, he's one of those guys. He's young, and he's just willing to help the team. A bit like what Freddie's been doing for us, because he's almost been thrown into this situation, and right now we don't have the market available to us for another 2-3 weeks, and we know what the Christmas schedule is like. Games are going to come thick and fast, and to not have Kolasinac and not have Tierney, this getting rid of Monreal, the way we got rid of him, it makes it look like maybe he's somebody that could have been there. It wasn't like it was on a high wage. He got a bit of experience there, but he could have done the job for us. And Monreal could play in one of the 3, and he could play as a wing back, and he could play left back. So there was various positivities that Monreal could have brought to the team, but he's not here no more. Saka's there. He's doing a job. I was very, very impressed with him picking up a yellow card so early on in the game and seeing the game out, and that shows that his level of discipline and wanting to do something for the team. And he also acted like as an outlet. He brought the ball forward a few times for us, and just to try and get us out of a defensive situation quite a few times, and drew some fouls as well. So all in all, I was very, very, very impressed with him. But we're in big trouble at the moment, and only God. Well, if you believe in God, there's some atheists there, but You know, only God actually can.
Let's not go
help
down
us
the
in this
religious
situation.
route.
No, I'm just saying, only God. Only people that believe in God, only God can help us out. This we need a fucking miracle, and that's how I say it. But you know, Saka done well for us yesterday, and hopefully it can get us, well, at least till the end of January when we're able to get.
Is this what you had in mind when you went into broadcasting?
Yes, this is exactly what I had in mind, Mike. I mean, for those that have just joined us, Mike is joining us. I say joining us live from Rome right now. You can actually hear you, Micah, now, which is good.
I can't even hear him.
Stop laughing, man. Stop laughing.
We talking about Arsenal? What's going on?
Yeah, we're trying to talk about the Everton game, mate, but we're being interrupted by an American who's just sort of randomly connecting to various bad Wi-Fi spots around Rome.
I mean, look, if you're of this quality, then I mean, look.
Yes, it's my fault that you're doing this 100%. 100%.
I'm looking at the background.
Mike, if you can hear me. If you can hear me, Mike, talk to me about Emile Smith-Rowe. Let's attempt to ask you a proper question.
He's very sexy. Very, very sexy. That's all I have to say.
Right. That's all you have to say. Fair enough. That's fine. That's fine. I really regret having you on this.
He's a good footballer. I think apparently he had a good game yesterday. I didn't see the game yesterday. I pulled a Webby. So aren't you even more glad you had me on the podcast?
Oh,
I'm gonna get off now. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't kick him; he just left. That's you see, you have me, Raph, and Ola on here giving you some top quality analysis of games, and then we have Mike bundling in Rome, just half cut half the time. That is all you're going to hear from Mike. Even if he joins, I'm letting him in, so that you won't have to worry about that anymore. Raph, mate, I'll ask you the same question that Mike failed to answer. Was sort of thrown into the deep end. Obviously, Ozil, after his reaction in the home game against Man City, was told by Freddie whether he was fit or not that he wasn't going to be playing, and Smith-Rowe was given that responsibility. How do you think the youngster acquitted himself away on Merseyside?
I alluded to it a little bit. I think the first half was a bit tough for him. I think there was a couple of stray passes. There was a specific chance that Martinelli had to break through down the left, and it just needed a little bit of quality, and he could just put him through, and Martinelli would have been pretty much one-on-one. And he kind of stretched it, didn't put the pass through. You could see that he was. I think it happens a lot on debuts where you can see that they're chasing the game a little bit. Where he seems like the type of player where the game should just come to him, and he's technically very good. He can run with the ball, things like that. But he seemed like he was trying a little bit too hard. I felt like the second half he grew into the game a lot more. There's a lot of new touches. One thing I really like about him was Smith-Rowe, and it's something that you can't really teach. He picks up very good areas. Like if you look at his movement off the ball, he gets into these little pockets that, if you can see that as he develops more and more, he will start to score quite a lot of goals because he picks up good pockets, so he'll score and he'll get a lot of assists if he can kind of harness that. But I felt like overall he grew into the game, but there was still a little bit more that I kind of expected from him. Like I said to you before, when you watch the under-23s, he dominates games. He's the creative force, and he does a lot of good things. I don't think that we saw that enough yesterday. I think that he has a chance to, obviously, as he plays more and more, potentially, he can develop into a good player. But yeah, overall, not bad, but I think he's a lot more to come.
Yeah, I think there is 100%. I think there's more to come from him. I think that he needs to equip himself more. I mean, the under-23s, it's more lightweight. He needs to bulk up. He needs to be able to deal with the physical presence of those experienced Premier League defenders. And once he does do that, and there is the potential for him to do that, I think that we've got real player on us. Now, Ola, there was someone who I was quite critical of during the game, and that's our striker, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He obviously captain of the day. I tweeted out saying that he looked rather disinterested to me. He didn't look like he had the attitude for the game. He didn't look like he particularly wanted to be there. Now, devil's advocate to that is that he wasn't getting the right service, he wasn't getting enough chances, and he's just not in the frame of mind right now that would make him want to play for Arsenal at this particular time. What is your thoughts on the Gabonese striker, and how do you sort of see him in moving forward into future fixtures?
First of all, the position we're in and the point tally that we're on, if it went for him, we don't even have those. That's first things first. But yesterday, I felt since Freddie, maybe give us a little bit during the West Ham game, but since Freddie, I've not really since the armband, really, I've not really got it with Aubameyang. I've not really been happy with his end product and what he's been really giving to the team, and then this situation with his brother coming out saying what he was saying about Freddie and Arteta, you then look at it and you think, oh, all right, we understand what you're saying. We all have the same concerns, but you're a professional footballer and you're on thousands of pounds to do a job for the club in a professional manner, and I expect him week in, week out to do that. With what happened, with his game yesterday, I just thought he didn't really want to pull his finger out. And to me, if it was Lacazette, even if Lacazette weren't getting service, he would drop deep to try and get the ball and affect the play and probably get runners. Because when you got a willing runner like Martinelli that will even chase lost courses, there's no reason why Oba can then drop deep, try and affect the game and get involved in the game a little bit more. It kind of looked like he was isolated, but I thought Torreira and Xhaka played a very, very good game yesterday, and that's because of their forward play, especially in the second half. I thought that was because of their forward play. So this is a bit of a myth for me that he didn't get no service, because there's one thing that we've always put on our midfielders, but yesterday our midfielders did come good in Torreira and Xhaka is probably one of the best I've seen them play. So to say Aubameyang didn't get service, to me, I just didn't see it. I saw more of him, and I like Aubameyang a lot. I really, really like him. But yesterday it just wasn't one of his best displays. And the earlier he boxes idea, and because he's still contracted to the club. And while we're in the situation we're in, we need him. We need him with good attitude. We need him with proper professionalism. Get out there, do a job for the club, earn points for the club, and get us up the table. And that's what I want to see from him. But what I saw yesterday, that wasn't it. That wasn't it at all.
No, it's really worrying when we've just got this new head coach coming in, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and when we're talking about someone who is clearly, as you said at the start of your piece there, someone that without him we wouldn't be where we are right now. His goals have been imperative to even us being in mid-table right now, rather than being even further down the league table. But I mean, the devil's advocate to that is that if he wasn't there, someone else would be there, and the same chances would still be created, and maybe we wouldn't put as many of them away, or maybe other players would score more goals because they aren't creating. Actually, they're doing more of a scoring job, but we'd never know. But for me, he just doesn't seem to have the aura about him that he wants to be. Raph, what's your take on that situation? I mean, him and Lacazette, both of them reportedly want out, as well as the likes of Xhaka, and Torreira's being heavily linked with a move to Napoli as well. Where's your head at with this situation? Does it concern you, or is it just something that you think that if the players don't want to be here, we just simply have to move them on and move on from it?
I think I slightly disagree with you two in regards to Aubameyang yesterday. I do think some of his body language. He could have done slightly more, but I just think he was starved of service. I don't think that we had many. If you look at it, there wasn't. He was still making runs. He was still trying to do certain things off the ball, and I just don't think he's the type of striker that holds up the ball well. It's not a strength of his. He's not a come deep striker. He's more of a on the shoulder type striker that relies on movement, and it relies on service a lot more than a Lacazette potentially. And I think Lacazette comes deeper, would hold up the ball a lot, but then he lacks the movement, I would say, of Aubameyang. So you get two different types of strikers. Maybe what we could have done is looked at the game and looked at the way we wanted to play, and maybe decided, okay, for this game you may play Lacazette as opposed to Aubameyang, or made the sub a little bit sooner, or just tried something a little bit different. But in terms of the situation in general, the way I kind of feel about it now, I just think if I look at as good as Aubameyang, and I'm one of Aubameyang's biggest fans, but as good as he's been, as good as Lacazette,
same here. I love the guy.
Yeah, in the situation that we're in, it's sad, but while they've been our quote unquote top players, we've regressed. And I'm not putting that on them specifically, but that means that I don't have this kind of I don't know, for use of a better word, they don't have this hold on me that if we sell them, like all our world's going to be over. If they want to leave, ultimately, let's just try and get as much money as possible and reboot. Like, I think Martinelli's shown us, and although he's young, you can, if you scout in the right way, if your scouting system done in the right way, if you can identify players, if they're coached well, you will be able to start finding players that may not be as good just straight on ability, but what they may be able to do is work well within a system that Arteta wants to play, and we may actually be better as a result. I remember when Henry, and obviously probably the best player that we've ever had at the club, give or take, but when Henry in his last season, there was such a reliance on him, and it felt like a lot of other players were playing with a handbrake on. They would always pass to Henry. And if you remember the season that he actually left, we had a better season than when he was there. If you remember, Adebayor scored 30 goals that season. That was one of the closest we've got to actually challenging in a long time. I know a lot of people forget that. I think we was only 4 points off the top of the league at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think sometimes we have this thing with Arsenal of late where we get like a player that's like a huge ability, and we get to this point where it's like we can't let him go. But sometimes you let that player go, and then you see other players step up, or you buy other players that come into the team and do a better job, and the balance of the overall team may be better. Because one thing you can say with Lacazette and Aubameyang, our team's quite imbalanced. So we've potentially got our two of our maybe 3 or 4 best players, and you can't play both of them because the team suffers as a result with the system that we're playing. So I'm not, like I said, I don't have a hold of any of these players. I would sell them if they want to leave, reboot, try and get players in, then we can start again.
Yeah.
No, sorry, can I add to that? Yeah, can I add to that point there as well, please? If we remember, only 18 months ago, 12 months ago, we got this little thing from Raul where he said, if players get to 18 months on their contract and they don't resign, it don't matter how important those players are to the club. If you're not signing that contract to be, because what we're trying to do now is build assets for the club. That's where we need to build from ground up. And with these players, especially Lacazette and Aubameyang, both of them aren't looking to sign new deals. And from what we've been told, if we're to hold them to what they say, I should expect them to be at least being offered to other clubs outside of the Premier League, maybe even inside the Premier League, but outside of the Premier League preferably, to try and get some funds for them and bring in other players that do want to be at the club, like you said earlier on, Raph, for the overall balance of the team. We need players that really want to put on for the club, sign for the club, and not hold the club to ransom with contracts. And that's where we are with these two players, Lacazette and Aubameyang.
And Ozil as well. I mean, we pay players too much in terms of and trying to keep players. We panic at the club a lot. The hierarchy panic with players. I'm afraid we might do it with Aubameyang. We may put him onto a higher wage when ultimately maybe he's not the person to take us into that next level with Arteta. Who knows? Hopefully that Arteta will have enough clout about him that he'll be able to tell the hierarchy what he wants, what he doesn't want, what he thinks needs to happen. If he does want to keep Aubameyang, then we need to play a system which suits him and gets the best out of him and bring the players in that are going to support him. But we need to work out what's best for that. Now, we have mentioned his name plenty of times already, and I have sort of put it off talking about it until this point. But it's time to talk about our new head coach a little bit, seeing as we have one. Raph, sort of just rewinding back to Friday when he was announced before the Everton game. The lead up to this, it was sort of expected. It was just sort of that waiting game of waiting again. Arsenal seem to try these announcements. Yeah, they just draw them out for so long, all the time. And to be fair, in my opinion, I thought they could have announced it sooner and he could have been in charge for the Everton game because we knew it was, if they'd have got their finger out, got him in before Man City played Oxford, then we could have had maybe a better chance of winning that game. Anyway, we can't just think about that in the past now. But are you pleased with this? Is he the person that you were happy with the most, or would you have rather seen on the opposite touchline, as we saw on Saturday, and Ancelotti, a more experienced coach, take the helm?
Okay, so he wasn't necessarily my first choice, but I think given the situation, what ideally I would have wanted was maybe Ljungberg to come in and hit the ground running and done a decent enough job so we could get to the summer and maybe look at Ten Hag, a Nagelsmann, a Rosa, someone in that ilk, or even an Arteta. But he wasn't maybe my first choice of those. I think given the fact that we needed to make a change, which to me was clear, I think Ljungberg, while I saw some good things, it was clear that maybe some of the players looked at him as part of the older regime more than maybe we would have thought initially as fans. And he looked like he was pushing a lot for the young players, but I'm digressing a little bit. In terms of Arteta, I'm actually very pleased in terms of the way he came across and the way that he delivered the interviews. It wasn't my first choice, but it's the type of coach and the type of mold that I wanted. I think that the squad needs and the system needs like revolution as opposed to evolution. We're clearly going backwards in terms of the playing personnel and not playing for the club. Ultimately, if we're being honest, we look at some of the players that we have and their talent or supposed talent is not being reflected in the results. So I think we needed something drastic. And from all the reports that we hear and from everything that Pep says and all of the people that are in the know, some of the players at Man City as well, he seems like a very good coach. He seems like he's a good man manager, and he seems obsessed with creating a culture within the club that will benefit us long term. So I'm happy with that type of coach. I didn't want an Ancelotti. I didn't want a Mourinho. I didn't even want an Allegri, mainly because of the fact that I feel like these type of coaches, their main area of success has come when they've been either the best team, they've been with the best team in the league, or they've been in a position where they have the resources to spend so that they can become the best team. So I think that coming into Arsenal now, I don't know if they would have been able to have that same impact. Ancelotti, one of the criticisms that people have had of Ancelotti is that he's not the best coach, like in terms of training. And I think for Arsenal, bringing in someone like that, who's a good man manager, excellent man manager, a very good person, but isn't the best coach, I think it would have been a recipe for disaster. And I think Arteta, the way that he's come in, the press conference, the ideas and the vision that he seems to have, and just even the no-nonsense approach that I think that he'll take, I think that it just bodes well. So I'm actually intrigued and enthused by him coming in, and I'm just interested to see how he plays and how he transmits his ideas to the team.
Ola, when we watched his press conference, I was very impressed. And I think that's not been lost on many people at all. I think over social media, it was 99% of people looked extremely impressed also with how he spoke and what he talked about. And then his interview with Arsenal.com was very good as well.
I love that interview.
And also I would highly recommend people go and listen or watch rather the behind the scenes of Arteta's first day, because when he goes into Colney and he goes into the sort of the room with Per Mertesacker and sort of the team that are looking at the statistics, he goes straight in there and he's asking, do we have the drones for the cameras? Where are the cameras at? He's looking at where he can analyze the game from. He's just in it straight away. He's on it. He's not worrying about the press conference. He's not worrying about the interview. He's thinking about the job straight away and what he needs to do. So if you haven't gone and watched that, please do go and check that out. But Ola, in terms of what he said and how he spoke, the main message that came through was very much of you can either get with what I want to do or you can leave. That's pretty much how I would paraphrase what he was talking about. If you're not committed, if you don't want to play with the system that we want to employ, then you're not going to be in the team. How perfect of a message is that? And second of all, how difficult do you see him being able to implement that message?
I think, first of all, is a guy that's been around one of the best in the world and learning the ropes of the job right next to him, watching how this guy go about, his daily business. He even mentioned in one of the interviews how he was given a more freer role in the day-to-days of what happens on with the Manchester City team. So he's far from the reserved job that what a lot of people perceive him to actually have. I think he has more of a role from what he said, and that's really, really good. He mentioned quite a few things as well in terms of things not being non-negotiable. Like, when I say this, there's no argument about it. There's no back and forth. I'm not having a back and forth with you. It's non-negotiable. It's my way or the highway, and it's a big message. It's a big message to stamp his authority, to put his foot down because I think we have a lot of prima donnas in the team, and the earlier Arteta puts his foot down and let them know that, look, I might have played alongside you before, but now this is a different time. I'm your boss, and when I want something to happen in this way, that's how I want it to happen. And I think he's definitely got the backing of the hierarchy. Otherwise, I don't think he would have took the job if they didn't promise him, they didn't promise to back him in whatever decision he's going to be making. And from the messages he put out there, I was very, very impressed. I can't wait for him to start. I think I think he's actually talking to a lot of the senior players, because we know the youngers that came in, which Freddie even put on display in this Everton game, showed a lot of hunger, showed a lot of heart, and he knows there's not a lot of talking to that he can do with the younger players to actually get them going. So he's talking to more of the senior team in terms of, if you don't get with what I want you to do, you'd be out of the door. And you don't seem like the type of guy that's bluffing, although he's got a very, very good poker face. And everybody goes on about this. He has no experience. It's a big, big concern. And he even said it himself. This is the only way I'm going to get experience. I'll do it a day at a time. Then it becomes a month. Then it becomes a year. That's how you build experience. So if nobody gives him a chance, it's not going to get experience. And I understand that Arsenal is a big, big job, for first time and for a novice. But at the same time, Trump, I know Trump didn't have no experience in politics, and now he's the president of the United States. So anything is possible in this day and age. And this guy can actually be a stroke. His appointment could be a stroke of a genius, or it could be a car crash. But one thing's for sure, we're there for the ride along, and we're going to see it happen.
No, we are. I think Arsenal at this moment in time, we're at the stage where we need to take a risk. We're at the stage where we can afford to do it, because I mean, how much worse can it get? I mean, the easy answer is saying that we could get relegated, but I don't quite see that happening with the quality that is in this team. I think that even at the point where we're going to get to a stage where it would get that bad, you would think that hierarchy would realise how important Premier League status is, and they would begin to do the right things, as in put more money in. Now, I know that would tempt some people to say, "Oh, well, why not? Let's go a bit further down the league so we can get some investment." But I just the way things are, it's a period in the club's history, if you like, where we are taking a dip. And Raph, for me, it's a stage where we can take that risk, where we can afford to go for someone that has never managed a first team game for his own team. He's done it for Man City on a very rare occasion. But for you, what are the biggest things that you're looking forward to seeing in Arteta? We've heard what he's done with some of the Man City players like Sane and Sterling. If people watch the tactical breakdown I did with Sam Lee from The Athletic, he talked about how he worked with Zinchenko and he's worked with Delph when they needed a left-back situation being sorted. So across the board, it's not just the front line, but also the defence that he's been working with. What are you most excited to see from Arteta as head coach?
I think the development of Pepe, Martinelli, Saka and Nelson, like the wingers, you alluded to it just then, but there's been a lot of talk about Sterling and Sane and how he helped them a lot in regards to certain winger play. I like when he spoke about footballs, about angles and stuff, and even down to the way that Sterling was, he would take the ball and stuff like that. They adapted and worked on little things that allowed it to go from somebody who consistently missed like chances to someone that you could probably bet money on that he's going to get at least 20 goals a season now. And I think that those little tweaks and those little nuances, I'll be interested to see. I'll be interested to see how he can actually improve the balance of the team as a whole. We spoke about it for months in regards to the defense and the midfield being so far apart. De Bruyne spoke about when we played against Man City that once they beat the press, they knew that realistically there was going to be so much spaces in the Arsenal team that it would be easy for us to pick up. So it will be interesting to see if he can create that balance and that synergy between the defense, the midfield, and the attack, and see how he does that. Also, just how he's going to play. Like, it's an unknown, and then obviously it's that's not always a bad thing. But because it's unknown, I just want to see what he does, what his philosophy is. Is it exactly the same as Pep's? Is there slight tweaks? Because ultimately he's his own man. There may have been things that he wanted to do that Pep said, no, I don't want to do. And obviously when it boils down to it, Pep's always going to have the final decision. So all of those little things will be interesting to see. It'll also be interesting to see how he deals with some of the players. I felt like it was interesting that he spoke about, I need to know the why in regards to why maybe some of the players have acted the way they have or feel the way that they feel, or why they've kind of, why they've moved in the way that they have. So it'll be interesting to see how his man management is and see if we can get a tune out of an Ozil, for example. And, the way he spoke about him in particular, it seems that he knows that maybe if you can get him on side in some way and you can get the best out of him, he knows the value that he could have. So just those little things I'm interested in seeing, and just interested to see in general how he's going to be. But I'm excited about Arsenal taking a risk. I feel like in England, we get kind of, we're fascinated by managers who are like big name managers and stellar names. And if we look at maybe like the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, they take risks on managers, but maybe calculated risks, but risks on managers that maybe other Prem clubs wouldn't, and they breed success from it. So I don't think it's a problem with us taking a risk, and I'm excited to see that.
100%. We're going to get a chance to go to some of your questions. So if you have a question for the last 10 minutes or so of the show, please throw them into the chat box below, and we will get through as many of those as possible. Ola, before we do that though, mate, I want to talk to you about some of the specific players, about what job and how you might see them progressing under Arteta. There are players in this team that we have mentioned already that want out, like supposedly, we're not going to say they want out, but reportedly they are rumoured to want to move away. Those are Aubameyang, Lacazette, Xhaka, possibly Torreira as one of the other ones. Özil has been linked with a move to Turkey on loan. There has been rumours about other players possibly being unsettled. I mean, the Independent put a headline out that said Aubameyang and half the squad was their headline. So do you think this attitude that he's got, which I asked you about before, about you can either get with the program or you can leave, what sort of impact do you think that's going to have on those specific players? Do you think he could turn their head around and change their mind, or do you think no matter how he comes in, they've set their stove out, basically?
I think depending on how true the story is, I think they've said that they've already made their minds up. Some of these players, the way they're playing, it's almost like sometimes when you watch the demeanor on the pitch, it's almost like the down tools. And Arteta, watching the game against Man City, he was sat on the other side, and he probably knew at one point he was going to come in for this job. And from what sitting down there and watching him, he knows he's got to go in there and put his foot down to be able to get this message into their heads. And for me, we don't know how successful it's going to be. That's one thing we're heading into. But the only way to do it, and I think any manager that comes into this job will have to probably take the same approach and go to these guys that are talking, that's being rumored to want to leave the club. That listen, we get clean slate together, and we can take back what's ours. We can bring the club back to where we should be together. Or if you don't want to do it, come summer, come January, whichever ones want to use, we can get out. We get you out, because there's always young players that's looking to take your spot. It's as simple as that. And for me, if it takes that approach, wherever, look, this season is almost a write-off. Yeah, we're halfway through it. We're not going to win the league. So it's all about reaching 40 points, which is looking difficult by the game, especially with the turn of fixtures. It's looking difficult by the game, especially with the turn of fixtures that we got. If you look at the fixtures we've got coming up, I keep thinking to myself, where are we going to get 3 points? There's no easy 3 points anywhere. And it's difficult. So Arteta coming out saying we got to start getting quick wins. I know he's nice saying it, but you got to go out there and get those quick wins. And I don't know how we're going to do it. But he needs to get them on side. That's the one thing to get these quick wins, and then we get to open market. We're definitely going to know who really is agitating for a move, especially in January. A lot of things is going to come to light, and we're going to see. For me, you mentioned a lot of names earlier on, and I still don't see Mustafi in that list. And to me, I don't know how this guy keep escaping any list that's to do with people leaving the club. But, he's probably one of those guys again. He hasn't done much wrong in most of the games that he's played this season, to be fair to him. But that's probably because he hasn't really had time to make those mistakes in games. So Arteta is the guy now at the helm. Everybody needs to to back the decision of the board, putting him in charge, and then we expect the board as well to back him. And hopefully we get some success under him.
Yeah, I still can't get over that 40 points comment, to be honest, Ola, man.
I don't see. I mean, like that's where we need to get to. We need to get to 40 points, and it's difficult times at the moment, mate. It's difficult times, man. Very difficult times. We're in the wilderness right now, mate.
Right, let's get through some of your questions, boys. Let's try and keep these answers as quick fire as possible, because we've got plenty of them to go through. Keep throwing them in the chat box below. I'm going to read through as many of them as feasibly possible. Raph, first one comes in from Matthew De Souza. He says, Tom, how much will Arteta's age be an issue? It was seen as a factor for AVB.
I think it could be. Who knows? But I think that football's changing. A lot of young managers are coming in. Like you look at Nagelsmann, I think he's 32 or something like that. He's very young, and I don't think age is a big issue now. I think it's more like if you can transmit your ideas and you're able to get the players on side and you have a clear understanding and idea of what you want to do, then I don't think age will be a big issue. And if it is, I think we need to go the other way, as in we need to move on the players that they have an issue with, as opposed to looking at Arteta as the problem, because I don't think that our players are in a position to, I don't know, like pick and choose and say they don't want this and they don't want that. I don't think they've deserved it. I don't think they earned it. So to me, I don't think it will be an issue. I don't think age is an issue. The issue would be whether or not he can transmit his ideas.
Very similar question from Matt Hales and Rodney Ola. Matt Hales says, who should Arsenal sign in January? And Rodney asked, first player that you would sign in the summer. So two separate questions, very similar though. Where's your head's at? I mean, it always comes down to transfers eventually, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've everybody knows this, apart from the people that are buying players at Arsenal. We need proper central defenders. Now that we've now got a left back problem and we've got a right back problem, because we know Mainsley can't do it all for the rest of the season or however long Bellerin is out for. And this has been our hope from like probably the earliest part of the season, that when Hector and Tierney comes back in, we were saying it to convince us that when Hector and Tierney comes back in, we're gonna be playing so much better. But look, we don't even have both of them right now, and it's definitely a position that needs looking at. Both left back, right back, and let's see who Arteta identifies as the people that he wants. I'm sure he'll be talking to Edu and Raul in that regard, and hopefully we're able to bring in some defensive reinforcements.
I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I'm going to go with Yoin. Yoin Young, Raph, says, if you could undo any outgoing transfer from Arsenal over the last 15 years, which one would it be?
Woo! Yeah.
That's a tough one. Yeah, that's a really tough one. It would be someone left field. I know it sounds strange. It wouldn't be necessarily the biggest.
The first thing that pops into my head is Gnabry at the moment.
Yeah, I would probably. It would either be Gnabry, or it would have been someone like weirdly enough, a Torre, because of the need that we've had. We've always had attacking players, but just someone that I felt loved the club, but was kind of harshly treated. I feel at the time we chose Gallas over Torre, and I would have done the other way around, because Gallas is a mercenary and a bit of a prick. So it would have been something like that. But I would say, in terms of my head, yeah, Gnabry probably to be. And when you look at him now, it's like, whoa. So yeah, I'd say one of those two players. Interestingly enough.
Ola?
Tough one. Good question.
Over the last 15 years, geez, I'd probably say Gilberto Silva. I still don't think we've replaced that guy till now. He brought so much to what we did, and the strength and the skill that we had in the middle of the park. Yeah, I'd go with him. I think it was sensational, and it was so underrated. Nobody really sung his praise until he was gone, and then you saw the big hole he left, and we've been still trying to find somebody that does that job, and we just it's never been.
He went to Panathinaikos. He left
in the comments.
What's
Matthew D'Souza in the comments said Ashley Cole. That's a good shout as well.
Yeah. Was that within 15 years? Did he leave when did he leave?
I think it was 06, I think.
It'll come in the 15-year range.
I mean, my head is in terms of more experienced players. I mean, you look at Gnabry as an obvious one for like sort of where he's gone since. I also look at Yaya Sanogo. No, not Yaya Sanogo. I look at, I mean, Robin van Persie, him not leaving, going to United and winning the league is big for me. Yeah. I know a lot of people said we sold him at the right time because we got a decent fee, and then he declined. But maybe not selling him in that moment.
Yeah, to Man United. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few players like Fabregas that that could have opted for maybe even Nasri, because these guys they brought so much to the way Wenger was playing at the time. But when you look at the huge gaping hole that's been left by someone like Silva, it's just difficult. To me, it's difficult to look past it, and we're still suffering from it. Still suffering.
I saw a question. I can't find it now, but there was a question that came in unasked about the Bayer Leverkusen forward that we're being linked to. I will find it in a second for you. It was about Kevin Volland. Now, as soon as I saw that question pop up, here we go. Josh Gunner Forever says, thoughts on the Volland link. Does that suggest an Al Balaka is off? As soon as I saw your question, Josh, there was only one person that I could send a message to. And that was, of course, Mr. Drew, our Bundesliga expert. I said, what are your thoughts on Kevin Volland? And he says, nope, pass. Under the right circumstances, he could be decent, but at best, absolutely not what we should be targeting, is what he says.
I would have said exactly the same thing. I think, we've looked at, apparently we've had links to Moussa Dembele, Dembele, which I would be much more inclined to go with. Very experienced, done well at Celtic, probably not the most expensive, and he's still quite young. So I would go down that route and make Martinelli play through the middle and maybe look at a winger as opposed to another striker. Something along those lines. But Volland, he doesn't score enough goals.
No, he doesn't. No, he started off as a wide player as well, didn't he? Then
he's a bit of a weird, you don't know exactly what he is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think he's the striker that we should really be, as Drew says, really should be targeting. Ola, Tom Gooner says, do you think if we got rid of a couple players in the January window, Arteta will be given the money to reinvest?
I'd like to think so. I'd like to hope so. And, I would have thought that would probably have been part of his negotiation into getting the job and some of the demands that he would have made and guarantees that he would have, seeked from the likes of Josh and Stan when he had his final interview. So I'd like to think that he'll be given the money to reinvest. So, but us not being in the European competitions and being the position in the league and all of that, I don't know where the money is going to come from. I hope the owners dip their hands into their own pocket and invest in the club, because they charge the fans the highest in the land. So if we're paying so much, we shouldn't be getting subpar football, and subpar football is coming from subpar players, and this is where the owners have got to go deep into their pocket and invest and back the manager to do what he's come here to do, which is bring this club back. And that's right up there, eating at the top table with the top clubs.
Raph, very important question from Rob Red. He says, Toms, please answer me. It's very important. What do you think of the idea of warm-up bikes by the bench like rugby players have?
I guess. I don't know. Like, it could be all right. They have it in the changing rooms anyway, but yeah. I don't know. It might be all right, but yeah, I have no opinion really.
I'm very much in line. I think every manager should always be on that exercise bike. Can you imagine Big Sam just like on the edge of the top?
or Rapper, yeah.
Yes, just loving that. Absolutely loving it. Ola Abuza says, what does Arteta need to do to command the respect from established non-committed players?
Good question. Very good question. I think we mentioned it a couple times earlier on. It's already coming, putting keywords like non-negotiable, being ruthless, and work rate. All these things are the things that Arteta already said he wants from the team. And if the team don't give him that, then they're out the door. So if you're not committed to how he wants you to do stuff, you're either going to be on the bench if you're on a long contract, or you're going to be sold if you can get you out of the club. So I think it will be given the freedom and backing to do that by the people that hired him. So, in my opinion, I think coming to put his foot down and learning from the best on how to do it, I don't think is gonna be a problem for Arteta one bit. He's gonna come in and do a good job.
Final thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap things up. We don't often get too serious on this podcast, but I watched the Chelsea Spurs game today, and the continual issues that we're seeing in football today just keep perpetuating throughout the game. Just keep on going, and it doesn't seem to matter what happens in terms of the things that are put in place during the games with this new system that's done. It does not seem to stop racist idiots from surfacing in the game. I'm just going to get a word from both of you on this. Raph, it's a really hard question, and I always ask it, and I feel myself repeating myself, but in your mind, is there anything realistically we can do to tackle this problem?
I think that I think points deductions and not throwing the game, but forfeiting the game. I think they're the only things. I think the moment it starts to affect the club and the club starts to actually lose points or things like that start to happen, I think that will be the only thing that will stop or even limit, because I don't even think that will stop it, but I think will limit racism more. I think it's societal, unfortunately. I think that it's, again, when you look at, and not to go into politics, but when you start to look at Trump and like Brexit, for whatever reason, whether your political stand on it is one way or the other, I think what started to happen is people have felt, for whatever reason, that they've been empowered. Racists have been empowered in some way, shape, or form to start to do this a little bit more, and it's reared its ugly head. And I just think, and also social media as well, I think all these things are starting to empower people that may have felt voiceless at a time, who haven't actually dealt with racism, but they've just suppressed it. And I just think that when it starts to actually affect the club in a negative way, that's the only way you may get people to stop. And even that way won't, because I don't think these are genuine fans. I think these are the people who found a platform to be racist thugs, and I think that's all it really is. So it's going to be tough, but I think points deductions, the game's forfeited, and you lose 3-0. I think that would be the only thing that will stop it, personally.
Yeah, I mean, there is some. When you say about points deductions, it's really difficult, because you'll get some really evil people out there that will go into grounds, pretend to be a fan of the other side, and throw out racist comments, because if the punishment for that is the team to get deducted points, they're going to go into opposition grounds and trying to influence that way. And this is, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, of course, to that side of it. It's very difficult to think up how you comment on that. Before I throw to you, Ola, Mike, you have rejoined us. Thank you ever so much. We're into a quite serious side of the podcast as you come in. But in terms of like the American side of things and in sports, we see it a lot happening in where you are right now in Italy. A lot of the Italian games are rife with this sort of thing. The Balotelli incident happened very recently with Brescia. Even his own fans basically insulting him for basically not being educated enough to know what type of reaction he was going to get, which is ridiculous. On the American side of things, is it something that you see in sports over there anywhere near as often as we see it in Europe?
Thankfully, no. I mean, you talk about you mentioned rightfully President Trump as being one of the kind of the catalyst for bringing people out of their shells when they feel like they can't be accepted as being racist or unacceptable. And it's absolutely an awful transition that's happening. It's a trend that continues to happen. But I just think that the brewing, it also has to do with the part of the country that you live in, the U.S., because really the U.S. is divided pretty sharply, and I'm not going to mention directions or compass areas, but I mean, not every area of the country is like that, but some areas of the country are more often than not. And yeah, you don't see a lot of it, but last night in another sport, you had one of the players from my local team actually in basketball go into the crowd to confront somebody, not Cantona like, but it's a problem everywhere, and it is most certainly on the rise, despite what everyone is trying to do to knock it down. I will say, being in Italy and going to a game in the Italian league, Fiorentina and Roma on Friday night, I did not see any of those goddamn posters. I didn't see those anywhere, so I don't know if that's a piss take or not. But those posters were not displayed prominently anywhere.
Ola, when the last sort of question, another thing that came out today was, and it's something that's very clear in the media as well about how things are twisted. I don't know if you've been able to see it, but Stormzy did an interview where he was asked on this, and the way that ITV News came out and put a story saying that Stormzy says that the UK is 100% racist. After, when you actually read the article, someone effectively asked him, is there racism in the UK? And he said, yes, 100%. It's someone put a brilliant tweet out, and they said, is there rice in the UK? Like rice, the word, like the food, right? Is there rice in the UK? Yeah. Stormzy replied saying, 100%, yes, there is rice in the UK. And so it's, do the media have, what side of it is the responsibility of the media making this worse? Because ultimately they're the ones that have the main power in how this is presented and shown to the majority of the country, within, be it in sports, be it in music, be it in whatever form of life. How do you see that responsibility being used?
I mean, Raheem Sterling is had to go through this whole type of stuff with the media as well. He's been, the whole of last season, Raheem Sterling was literally battling the media with the way he's been presented, with some of the things that he said and the way he's been portrayed and stuff like that. So asking Stormzy if there's racism in the UK, and it says 100%. It's not saying that the UK is 100% full of racist. It's just saying 100% there's racism in the UK, and they found a way. They always find a way to try and twist what you say into something. What's that word? Sensationalist, something like that. That's what they try to do, and they make it look so much worse than what it's supposed to be. And to me, obviously, in one of his songs, he's done something where he's done a song that had a bit saying "fuck Boris," but I don't know if you've ever heard that song there before. But I think that's probably why they've came at him left ways like that, because now Boris is in power. He won the election, and now when you got a song and you're singing in concert that way, then the media are going to come at you left field and make you look like the way they've made him look. So there's a bit of responsibility by the British media to put news out in the right manner and without a racist agenda behind it, because they do it a lot. Like you said, they have the power to do it in the right way, but they'd rather get the clickbait and make it more than it's supposed to. A lot of it has negative impact on the people that we're speaking about. So I don't know how we tackle it. It's a social issue, and it's coming to football. We see it all the time. I mean, it's all right pointing a finger at all the other places in Europe, but when you look at our own backyard, it really does stink. And there's only one way for me, not so much point deduction like Raph alluded to earlier on. I think people need to be outed. You know, if something like that goes on next to you in the stadium, or if you're there and you see it happen, point the person out. I don't care. Point the person out, because you know, in this day and age, there's no room for that. There's no reason for that to be going on. And you know, the current government out there in America, well, here in the UK, is probably going to make people a little bit bolder to come out and do that. I mean, it happened to Chelsea players today, but let's not forget, Chelsea fans did it to Raheem Sterling last season. So he's everywhere, you know, and the only way to really tackle it is to up these people.
Just very quickly, a lot of people started tweeting out saying Spurs showing their true colours. If you're tweeting stuff like that out, you are brandishing an entire fan base and calling them racist because of a few idiots. It's not true.
Yeah, exactly.
Not all Spurs fans are racist. I've got a lot of mates who are Spurs fans, and trust me, I argue with them all the time. But they are not racist.
Same here.
And just because one or two or three or however many Spurs fans, and there will be Arsenal fans, unfortunately, that are also racist.
Yeah, there's been Arsenal fans that have been racist as well. So
you cannot simply put out that sort of generalization. So do not, and if you see tweets like that, report them. And as Ola said, if you're in the ground, if you're in any ground, in any stadium, in any place, and you see it, you report it. I mean, I understand sometimes it can be quite a daunting thing going and reporting, especially someone that you know is you're meant to be in the ground, and it's a family sort of thing you feel was one a lot of the time when you're in the ground. But it is wrong, and you need to report it if you see it 100%, so we can tackle it the best as possible. Whilst we talk about football all the time on this channel, I think one of the best things we do on here is talk about some of the serious stuff sometimes, and I think we've done that very well. So thank you ever so much for those guys that stuck with us in the chat box to talk about that. I've read through some of your comments, and I agree with quite a lot of them. But as in terms of just a summarising message, as we've already said, if you see it, report it. If you're in the ground, report it. Just do anything that you can to possibly tackle it. We're going to finish things off there. Thank you ever so much for tuning in, people. Raph, pleasure as always, mate.
Same, likewise, mate. The technicals are hilarious, by the way, but it's
oh God, I was asking Ola questions and he was leaving. I was asking Mike questions. Yeah. Pleasure as always, mate. And Ola, someone said that your tree is on acid, which I enjoyed.
Oh yeah, I'll be on mushrooms soon myself. I don't worry about that.
I hope they're garlic ones, mate. Not the.
Oh yeah.
I'll do it. But thank you for coming on, mate. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me on, man. It's been a pleasure.
And I suppose we should thank Mike in some form or capacity for making an appearance or two at this evening. He jumped on and put a few good words in on a serious note at the end as well. So he is capable of doing it. He just needs to be set up in the right way. It's probably fair to say. If you please make sure you drop a like on the channel, and of course subscribe if you're new around here, and turn those notifications on so you can always check out our live chats. We've answered plenty of your questions tonight, and there's the channel unlocked something called memberships over the weekend. Not really sure what that is, but I'm going to go and do a little bit of research on it, so maybe you guys can become members if that's a thing. But there'll be some news on that very soon, so I'll keep you posted. As I've already said, if you haven't already gone and watched it, please do go tactical breakdown, the managerial tactical breakdown of Mikel Arteta with Sam Lee from the Athletics, and really insightful stuff on what we might expect to see from the Spaniard. But until then, our next show is going to be probably after the Bournemouth game, because before then is, of course, Christmas. So enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your time off work or school or wherever you're doing. I'm sure that I know plenty of you already. I've already had a few days off being a teacher. I get 2.5 weeks, and it's amazing. Not rubbing that in. I'm hoping to see some of you maybe at the Chelsea game. I'll be there for that, and I'll be enjoying my Christmas meal next week. But Ola, Raph, please enjoy your Christmas as well, guys, and everyone else. We'll see you again very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.
Salute.
Merry Christmas, everyone out there as well.